Hi, it's Tom again. Today we're in the office doing some lab testing because there's some research I want to do with terminating cottonseed embryos in order to reduce germination success to 0. The reason why I'm doing that is because it's a long answer, but the big thing is that here in South Carolina, due to the boll weevil quarantine, we have state laws that forbid the sale or distribution of ornamental cotton within the state. All of the cotton I grow is grown underneath the state ornamental cotton permit program. You know, the various stakeholders in this would like to see this product, sold in some capacity to make the project self-sustaining. Those stakeholders being the land trust, my uncle who's growing the cotton, me, the woman who's helping me out with textiles and stuff like that. Like selling textiles and all that, that's not a problem. The issue comes with distributing the seeds, and the very obvious product that everyone wants to make is a cotton wreath. It's super easy to make. You just cut the branches right off the plant, stick the bolls together in a wreath, and slap a price tag and sell it. The problem with that is that those bolls are mature and they contain viable seeds. So after a short discussion with the ornamental cotton program folks up at Clemson, they have assured me that I would not be able to sell the whole complete bolls unless I terminated the seeds inside the bolls. And that was my initial thought and hypothesis. So I had already been thinking about this for a while, but I did get confirmation from them. So in order to be able to make cotton wreaths and sell them, I have to kill the seeds in the boll. Now, the very simple, obvious thing to do is to just pick the cotton out of the boll, gin it, take those seeds, throw them in a bin, and then take that cotton and then hot glue it back in. Just do that for every lockule. However, that's really time consuming, and it greatly impacts the appearance of the cotton in a way that I feel is disingenuous. Considering how this is such a niche product, I kind of want to keep it aesthetically as much intact as possible. So I need to find a way to kill the seeds in the boll without damaging the aesthetics of the boll, and I need to figure out how to do that efficiently at a production scale. So that brings us to this experiment that I'm setting up today. I am testing 3 different types of methodologies to terminate cotton seeds. I was not able to find much existing research on this subject, but I already had some hypotheses in my head that I thought of, and I did find some information on basically all of them from independent researchers confirming that those would probably work. So in order to test these, I'm trying to create some sort of facsimile of a cotton boll while also removing all the various extraneous variables that come into play with whether or not these processes will work. So I've created basically a mock boll here to put these already ginned seeds in order to kill them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 11 seeds from each one of these 6 plants, and these were selected from the 6 highest producing plants that were rejected from selection. And the reason why I picked the 6 highest producing plants is because these 6 had a second bag, so I just pulled the bag out, and then that makes the division really easy, and it's basically arbitrary. What I'm going to do is take 11 seeds, put them in a single ply square of these cheapo napkins, and then wrap it up all on one side, twist the top like a little dumpling, and then I'm going to tie that off with thread, and I'm going to do that for all 6, and I'm going to take all 6 of those, and I'm going to stick them inside of one of these clean cotton socks, and then fold it just like this with the cotton sitting on top with just one layer of cotton on top of it. I'm going to set that on a piece of cardboard, and then I'm going to stick that into one of 3 thermal controlling residential cooking devices. AKA, I'm going to stick one in a toaster oven, I'm going to stick one in a microwave, and I'm going to stick one in a freezer. And the reason why I'm doing that is because what I'm trying to do is simultaneously denature, desiccate, and change the phase of the water inside of the seeds in an effort to try and kill the embryo. And each 3 of those has a different mode of activation, and I'm curious to see which is the most effective. I already have my thoughts on which is probably going to be the one that works and is the most feasible at a larger scale, but we will see what the data tells us on that front. So what I'm going to try to do is do 20 minutes at 200 degrees in the toaster oven, 3 hours at between 20 and 30 degrees in the freezer. I definitely want to be well below freezing. And then 5 minutes at about 300 to 400 watts in the microwave, because I don't want to cook these, because if I throw bowls in the microwave and cook them while they're still wet, they may start warping and bursting, and I don't want that, or the cotton may auto-ignite. I'm just trying to boil the water inside of the seed. And if I've already got a dry bowl, the only water that's going to be in that is inside of the seed. The other thing is that cotton contains a lot of oils, so I don't want to put the cotton seed in there at too high of a wattage in the microwave, because I may get a popcorn effect, which is no good. Although, I guess inside of the bowl that probably won't be much of a problem, but I also don't think I can fit many cotton bowls in there, and then it gets really complex, and I don't think that's going to be replicatable, but we're going to see how well it works, so I can see how that goes at a small scale at the very least. So anyway, I guess without further ado, I'm going to get to doing that. I don't know how much of that ride I'm going to take you along for, but I'll definitely be sharing the results. I'm recording all of my data here on the data sheet. And also, in addition to that, I am doing a one control. I'm just taking 11 of each of these seeds, and I'm just going to leave them sitting on the table throughout all of this. And in order to test these to see if the seeds are dead, I'm going to do a standard germination test after that. I'm going to take each set of seeds from each test. I'm keeping these separated by plants all the way throughout, just so that if like one of these plants is totally unviable, I can kick it out of the data and it doesn't skew the results. Because from what I learned from the cotton folks at Clemson, I need to show them a record that I experimented and tested with this, and that I proved that this methodology works, and I need to, be independently tracking this all the time throughout production, because they may just drop in and inspect me. They're serious about the boll weevil. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 11 seeds from one test, wrap it in a napkin, stick it in a sandwich bag, and put about an ounce of distilled water in it. And then I'm going to take that and sit it in a climate-controlled area at about room temperature. I may put it on a heating pad. I got to look up to see which is preferred. And I'll let them sit for 7 days. And then I'm going to open the bag, pull out the paper towel, and see how many have germinated. And if they haven't all germinated, then I'm going to stick them back in the bag and we'll let them sit for another 7 days. And after 14 days, that's when I'm going to take my final reading, because I consider after 14 days they haven't germinated, they're not going to germinate. Because that's what I've observed in field conditions. Because what I've seen from field conditions, they're done after 14 days. If they haven't come up in 14 days, they're toast. It's probably less than that. It's probably only like 10 days. And if they don't come up after that, they weren't going to come up. And so, I'll have to prove all of this out at a much larger scale after the fact, but this is just the first phase of testing, so that, I can prove the feasibility of these testing methodologies, and then go from there in refining it and selecting the best approach. And I may start doing a combination approach. I may have to do heat cycling. Currently, my hypothesis is that the oven is going to be the best bet, because that's got the most guarantee to drive the water out, because it's heating the seed and forcing the water out. I think freezing won't be as efficient. Seeds are naturally resistant to freezing, especially when they start desiccating, and cotton is stored cryogenically after it's desiccated. So I think freezing won't work, and these seeds are thoroughly dried out. They've been sitting around for 270 days, so if that's not going to work, we'll definitely see it. The microwave, I don't think that's going to work at a large scale, because they don't really make commercial microwaves. So you'd really only be able to do that like 1, 2, 3 branches at a time, maybe only like 10 bowls at a time. So that probably won't work. So I think like just sticking a box, like a banker's box full of branches in a convection oven, and then running that for 20 minutes at 200 is probably the easiest thing. because you want it, because that'll heat up the seeds. It'll start driving the water out of the embryo, and it may, if that water, I don't want to boil the water, and I definitely don't want to get to auto ignition. I think it's 140 degrees Celsius. That's the auto ignition point of oiled cotton. So as long as, I think I can probably boil them, so long as the actual vegetation itself is dry. But I'm just trying to desiccate them, drive the water out. I could like submerge them in silica or stick them in a silica box, but that'll take way too long. There's too much water in that system anyway, and then I can't get the silica on the fiber itself or ruin it. But anyway, without further ado, I'm gonna get to testing this, and I'm gonna be taking temperature readings to confirm, that what the freezer says and what the toaster oven says is actually correct. And I'm gonna do that before I stick them in the toaster oven because I don't want to burn the office down. In the toaster oven, they may just not fit, and then I'm gonna take them home and I'm gonna stick them in a conventional oven. I know that'll work. All right, now I'm gonna show you what I'm doing with these cotton seeds. So I have not done this yet, so if it looks sloppy, that's why. Shaking out 11 seeds. The reason why I'm doing 11 seeds is because the least number of seeds I had in any one of these bags was 66, and it was just convenient. I had at least 66 in all of them. Most of them were like 66 to 71, so 66 worked out, and then I have some leftovers that I can test in the microwave first to make sure I'm not popping seeds. What I'm doing with each of these is I'm taking all four corners and pinching it up like that into a dumpling. Then I'm spinning the top to secure it, and this emulates a locule. And that's just a convenient excuse I made up because I just needed a way to separate the seeds from each plant. And the fact that this looks like a locule is just coincidence. I needed something that would separate them, that was simple, thin, was slightly insulatory, but was still permeable to steam. And then with that, I'm taking about 8 inches of thread. Just tying it off so it doesn't open up. And I'm taking this little card. Now I'm writing the name of the plant on it. In this case it is 13B. And then in parentheses I'm adding the number of seeds, which is 11. And I'm going to take this and instead of using the needle, I'm just going to snip a little hole in it, and then tie that on. Alright, there we go. One cotton bundle. So now I just got to do that 18 more times. Wait, 17 more times. 6 for each test. It shouldn't take too long, but it's kind of a pain. In future tests, I'm not going to do that. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to take all of the seed in one great big handful and not separate it by plant, and then just stick it in a sock or something. We'll see. Alright, and there we go. I've got 11 from each plant times 3, all split up into 6 groups. 11 from each plant in each. And it took longer than I hoped, but about as long as I anticipated. I don't think I'm going to do the actual testing here in the office, just because the toaster oven's too hot. I checked that out, and it was well above 200 degrees when it was set at 200, and I tried to test that with a sheet of cardboard, and that auto-ignited from conduction from the grill, so that was fun. So that's not going to work, so I'm going to have to do that in a conventional oven, and I'm going to do that at home, and I think that'll work. I may have to forego the cardboard and I may have to undo all of this work I just did and set them directly on something else. Don't know yet. I don't want them on something thermally conductive. I may have to do like a welder's glove or like a silicone mat. I don't know yet. We'll look into that. I don't think the cardboard's gonna work for the oven. It'll work in the freezer and it'll work in the microwave, but I don't know. I'm probably gonna try and do 180 degrees Fahrenheit for like 30 minutes instead. We'll see. Alright, all the tests are complete. I didn't show you the freezer one, but I got that done. That got down to about -10. Had to do the oven twice because the first time in the oven it only got down to about 150, even though it was set to 180, so I had to go back and do it again. I did for 30 at 150, and then I did for 20 at 180. Microwave went just fine. Yeah, so that's all I did. I just took all 10 seeds, plopped them in the middle of a paper towel, folded it in half, folded it in thirds one way, and then thirds in the other way, and added about a tablespoon, teaspoon and a half of water, just enough to wet the paper towel. Left just enough air in it so that they don't suffocate. And I've just got them stuck here up against an exterior wall, just so they get a little more heat than room temperature. I'm stuck in the spare bedroom, and we'll come back and look at them in a week. Alright, let's take a look at these germination tests. I'm not sure why, but there's some of this going on, and I don't think that's a good sign. Everything seems to have some sort of yellow or brown something going on, and I'm assuming that's fungal or bacterial growth, which means this test is probably invalidated. However, I can also tell you that the freezer failed this test because there is at least 2 packets in here where I can see roots visibly growing out, and that's only in the freezer, so I'm assuming that cold stratification encouraged germination. So that's cool to note, but I'm going to get in here and see how many of these have actually germinated, and I can tell from the smell coming from this bag that this is probably not going to be fun. I'm also pretty certain I'm going to have to redo all of this again, but we can safely rule out the freezer, at least on that cold cycle. So let's get to it. So here's the first control I opened, and as you can see, none of the seeds appear to have germinated. I don't see any radicals poking out, but there is like a slime over them, so might have been some sort of bacterial contamination that invalidated the test. Yeah, so I may not be able to use this as a germination media. I may have to use sterile media, like some coconut core instead. Well, I take that back. I opened up the next one and we got 7 germinations and 4 not, so I guess 1,3B must be bad seeds or something. Alright, so in light of that, I decided to repackage that, and I guess we're gonna go 14 days to see if these do anything. I guess what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pull the germinated seeds out so they don't rot and further contaminate this test, and then we'll package everything back up, and that's just how we'll roll for the remainder of these. Okay, so on closer examination it looks like we have 5 and 1,3B, so that's what I'm going to call that as. I'm just putting all the germinated ones in there and then just loosely rolling these back up so they get a little more oxygen, and then shoving them in the bag. Alright, and there's the last one in the control. That one was particularly horrible, and I had to go get a mask before I threw up in my mouth. It smells like baby diaper. But thankfully, all 11 of that one germinated, which means I get to throw that away and not deal with that in another 7 days. I guess we're going to start with the freezer next, since I already know that's a failure. So I can leave myself and you in suspense a little bit longer. Alright, I just opened up 1,3B out of the freezer batch, and as you can see from this, something about the freezing actually accelerates and improves germination rate, so that's actually a cool finding. Because 1,3B, along with this one here, 3,6, see, you can see how it's, a ball instead of
flat, and it doesn't have any of this yellow going on. Something about freezing them must have sterilized the seeds or triggered them to germinate better, because all of these germinated. And I think what this is it's sort of a positive feedback loop. When these all started to germinate really quickly, they sucked up a lot of the water because this is not super wet. And when they did that, they dried the conditions out a little bit. They probably absorbed a lot of the free oxygen. They spaced the bag apart so not everything was stuck together, which gave them more access to oxygen. And then once it started doing that, then the bacteria couldn't, create this mold and slime, and it couldn't inhibit growth, so then they all just grew really well. That's my thought, at least. But the only ones that did that, and 2 of them did that, were in the freezer bag. However, the freezer was the last set of bags that I packaged, so it is possible that I just had my my water percentages down, and I wasn't over-watering them like I was with some of the early stuff. I don't know. That's just my thought. But yeah, all 10 out of these 11 germinated in spectacular fashion. And here is the freezer bag, a 36C, and these are even more spectacular. Something I am going to note here is this paper towel is like just ever so slightly damp. Like, it's not wet in any way. It's got like just a hint of water to it. Enough to saturate the paper towel, but not enough to feel wet in any way. Also, when I opened this was very warm. Like, it was probably a good 100 degrees inside of that bag. So I think heat might be something. So I may try putting these out someplace in direct sunlight so they get just a little bit of radiant heat, or maybe putting a heater pad underneath them with a good bit of insulation, just to keep them above 80 degrees. And we'll see how that goes, because they've been above 70 this whole time, that's for sure. And from downtown, we're off to a promising start with the microwave. Out of all 11, not one germination. So let's see if we can keep that up the entire way through. But that's the best single packet one yet. I kind of expected as much. The microwave is kind of especially suited to killing seeds. The only real problem with that is there's no real way to do that at a commercial scale. But it is kind of cool in that regard to see that it is, at least at this point in the research, looking to be viable. Well, that streak was broken pretty quick. We had one in the next batch that is weakly starting to germinate. But it is a radical in there. It's not just a split. There's one other one in here. That one, I think, no. Anyway, that one right there, which you can't see because the camera won't focus. That one right there as well might be germinating, but it's so minor that I'm not going to count that. That'll have to wait, and we'll have to see if it does it after another 7 days. Alright, and that's the last of the microwaves, and we only had that one germination I showed you, that whole batch. It was all zeros for everything else. So it may very well be that other one wasn't actually even a germination. That could have just been a split shell, and it was showing the preformed radical inside of the seed and not actually one that had grown. But I do think that one was a radical. So that's 1 out of 66. That's really damn good. And I have a sneaking suspicion that the oven is not going to be as good, which would suck, but I still have hope. Well, first one from the oven, I think we might have one germination, but this is absolutely putrid. So I can't even really tell, but it's certainly not going back. Yeah. So still pretty good results, but not the best sign. Did not have optimal temperature or cook time with these, so still room for improvement if this does continue to go downhill. Alright, and with that, we're done with the all the germination tests for the 7-day mark, and I don't know what it was, but all of these ones that came out of the oven were absolutely foul. They were slimy and they had a lot of bacterial growth. Smelled terrible. But the data is pretty good. 4 of them had what I think was germination, and 2 were without germinations. It's not as good as the microwave, but once again, like I said, I did not get the test parameters I wanted out of it. So there's room for improvement, and I don't really think the test was valid. I think a lot of the non-germinations I was seeing was due to excessive bacterial growth, because a lot of these I saw had broken seed coats, but there was no germination, and I think that might have been a result of them cracking and then rehydrating, and not like, a failed germination attempt. Luckily, I have enough seed left to do another 2 tests, so I think we'll do another oven test and see if we can get better results out of that. No need to do another microwave test. I did that 5 at 300 watts. I could easily do it 5 at 400 watts, and I think that would do the trick. So, but we need to figure out this oven. I'm going to give up on the freezer because that obviously didn't work. The freezer actually had, let's just look at the data. So here's the control. That's average about 8 or 9 per test. So about an 80% germination rate, which is what I saw in the field planting. The oven, we had 4 single germinations and 2 no germinations, but I don't trust these numbers. I need to do that again. Here with the freezer, we had an average of 10, so it did better than the control, so we'll just throw that out. They're obviously resistant to that naturally. In the microwave, we only had 1 germination, so that's a clear winner, but long-term in a production scale, I don't see this being feasible. So we're going to focus our efforts on improving the oven test conditions. See, this had 20 at 180. I'm going to try and do 30 at 200. We'll see what that gets us, and I'm not going to put them in a little cotton baggie. Also, I don't see any reason to go to 14 days at this point. With how much gross nast is inside of there, I think any results we get after 7 days is not going to be worth it. In the future, I'm going to use a lot less water, and I'm going to leave a lot more air in the bags, and I'm going to put them someplace warmer, and I'm probably going to check them after 5 days and call it there. So, yeah, I got marching orders now. 30 at 200 for another one of these. Then we're going to do another germination test, and we're going to make sure there's a lot less water and a lot more oxygen, and we're going to make sure they stay nice and toasty. Well, not toasty, but, comfortably warm. Alright, so we've completed the second oven test. I did these for 45 minutes at confirmed 205 degrees, and this time with the germination test, I gave them a much better conditions to actually germinate under. So I left a lot of air in each bag. I wadded up the paper towel around the seeds instead of folding it, and I only added just enough water to totally wet the paper towel, and if I thought there was too much, I squeezed the paper towel and drained all the excess out. So these bags are full of air. The seeds have plenty of breathing room. There's lots of surface area for oxygen to diffuse into the paper towel and get to the seeds. And hopefully they're not going to rot like they did before. And we'll check on these next Saturday, and we'll see what the germination success is. Hopefully it's zilch. And this is where I'm leaving them. Same place as before, up against the exterior wall. Here on the west side in the spare bedroom, and I checked the temperature, and here in the afternoon it's sitting at a comfortable 76 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit on this wall and on this binder, so that is about perfect for germination, so we're not going to worry about that. See you in a week. Alright, it's the butt crack of dawn, and I'm out here in the garage, and I gotta be in Greenville in 3.5 hours, and I got 20 minutes, maybe only 15. And I'm going to see if I can knock these out real quick. So these have been sitting for 7 days. And, same procedure as the last, except I watered them up this time and used less water. So hopefully they don't smell as much like death, but I assume they will. Alright, and there you have it. I only had potentially one, and that was this guy out of all 66, and that may not be all of them because I started throwing them in the trash can before I realized, oh hey, I should probably show the camera because I'm trying to document this. But this was the only potential germination I had, and I want to say that that's not. I had a lot of those last week, and I don't really think those are germinations. I think that's just the seed swelling. But there's no growth there. These things grow really fast, and they can put on that much in a day. So the fact that I was seeing like tons of these last week after 7 days to me says that those aren't real germinations, or if they are, the seed died immediately after germinating, and it just doesn't seem to me possible that a seed can germinate and then just immediately die. They'd put some kind of growth on them. So I'm just going to say that that's not germination. I'll note it in the comments as a potential, but I don't think it is. So anyway, that's the phase 1 testing results completed. This and the microwave were the results I wanted to see, but what I saw with the oven before are the results I did not want to see. But that's why we test, so that we can figure this stuff out. And after this comes phase 2, and phase 2 is going to be testing whole, complete, mature bolls, which I don't have yet. Those won't be coming in until next month. It's near the end of July right now, and once August rolls around, I should start having bolls come in. And once I get an excess of those, I'm going to do 10 bowls at a time, and I'm just going to put those in the oven. I'm going to take 10 bowls, I'm going to stick those in the microwave, and we're going to do these again here in a couple of months. And then I'm going to calibrate everything to work with that, and then we're going to test it again in phase 3, which will be with whole cut branches and bowls. I'm going to need to talk to the people making the wreaths and see what they actually need from the plant to be able to use them. And then we're just going to use that. I'm going to throw all of them in like a wire basket or something like that, and we're going to test that at a production scale. And then we'll pull a sample of 10 bowls from strategically scattered in the box or randomly, probably strategic, because I want the best. I want the most representative sample per test, and we'll see how much time and how much heat these things actually need to kill. But till then, Tom out.